Hello, I think I'm recording, so I'm going to go ahead and start into the slideshow mode here. Oops, that is not going to work because I actually have another screen running. So let me just go back to this one. So this is sort of some background information for you as we get started in Social Work 522. This is a generalist practice program, which basically is just telling you that you are going to have a lot of options when you're done. We aren't focused into clinical work or one specific thing, so that you have the ability to do clinical work if you would like to, but you also can go into basically any field and context area that social work exists. So with that, we are mainly focusing here on assessments and interventions with individuals in 522. And I want to take you to a little press book, online, free to you, free to me. Students wrote this, Introductions to Social Work at Ferris State University. And I specifically want to take a look at chapter 4, which is a focus on generalist practice. And I think it goes into some things that will be helpful for you to talk about and know and have access to as we move forward. So the first thing, like I told you already a little bit about generalist practice, it can be done at the micro, meso, or macro level of social work. And you know already, hopefully from our time together before, that the micro level practice, it helps individuals, families, and small groups, and is a smaller, that's why the name micro level of practice. So then there's the meso level, which gets a little bit bigger. And usually, if you're working in a micro level, you're also working meso level. The biggest difference is meso level social workers help groups of people more often than not. And so that's an important difference there. Then macro level is very different from micro and meso. The focus here is to help populations of people on a large scale. So social workers at this level are looking citywide, statewide, even nationally at issues and problems that people are facing. And a lot of times, according to this book and the social work students, people at the macro level can be employed at nonprofit organizations, public defense, law firms. They work pro bono cases sometimes, government departments, and human rights organizations. Usually you aren't going to find macro level social workers providing a lot of therapy or assistance specifically in case management with clients. But they will conduct interviews and do some research with individuals. So then this chapter gets into some systems and systems theory and ecological systems theory. Systems theory we're going to be talking about in this course a little bit as we dive in, and it is valuable to our profession because it assists us as social workers in identifying, defining, and addressing the problems that exist in social systems. So you'll hear more about that later, but just know that that is a big focus and a big topic for us in this course. Sorry about my dog. Then we have ecological systems theory, and that was created in the 1970s, and it's more of the person and environment approach, and we are also going to be digging into that a bit. But within the ecological systems theory, we talk about microsystems, which is the smallest system, again, that word micro. Mesosystems, it's a step above and focuses on relationships between groups and how one social group might affect another social group. And then we have exosystems, which is more generalized and shows that the group has interactions among other groups. And lastly, macro system, which is focusing again on the big issues like culture, politics, and government in our society. Here is a key thing that I think is super helpful when we are working with individuals that comes from this ecological systems and systems theory. It's called an eco map. And the eco map is and a sort of diagram that you're going to show the person in the center that you're working with, or maybe the family as in this echo map. And then the different connections to the different systems and ecological systems around them. And so this person in the middle affects those systems in the outside, and the systems on the outside impact the person in the middle. And you can create keys that show the directional movement. These arrows are showing the directional movement of the situation. And then we're going to go down to, this is called a genome map. And the genome map is a bit different because the genome map is, or genogram is like a family tree. Hey, stop. So the family tree, you have a key that you're going to create. This is probably going to be hard to read. And sorry. And the family tree then, with this little map that you have created on the side, or the key for the map, is going to show you whether male or female. The colors might determine like how far down the family line that person lived. There could be, if you see the little two red slanting lines in the middle there, that might mean like a broken relationship or a divorce. You can see there's a key down in the bottom right-hand corner to identify different lines and markings on the map. Again, some people will do like a triangle and a square representing how that person identifies. So we have that to think about as well. Then this chapter goes on to talk about another really important aspect of our profession, which is strengths-based approach. And that is meaning that everyone, every person, every group, everyone has strengths. And that communities and our environment has a ton of resources. And so when we are looking at things from a strengths-based approach, we are focusing on what do we have here to work with, what is positive, what is working, what is helpful, how can we plug into that more. Then the chapter goes into something called the planned change model, which is super important. All of these things you're really going to be using throughout your time in this program and when you get out into the field. But the planned change model, you can oftentimes see it like written in a list, sometimes in a circle. It's not linear, meaning one thing doesn't have to happen before the next thing, before the next thing, before the next thing. We engage with our clients. When we first meet them, we talk with them, we get to know them, we develop relationship and rapport. We assess, meaning we're trying to get to the bottom what's going on here. We're investigating, we're looking for what is the problem, why did you come to see me, what brings you in? And then we are going to talk in that area biopsychosocial, but we're still engaging while this is going on. So you can see that it's not linear, that we can have more than one thing happen at once. As we're assessing and we're finding out, okay, what's going on here? Then we're going to start making a plan to address the issues that we're seeing and what's happening. These stages, again, engagement is the client and the therapist. Assessment takes the client and the therapist. The planning phase, again, client and therapist. So this book is pointing to 5 key points during the assessment phase, which are identifying the need or the problem, identifying the nature of the problem, identifying strengths and resources, collecting information, and analyzing that collected information. So that way you can go on to the planning phase. And this is something that you're, again, going to want to talk with, get buy-in from, and input from your client if possible at all. Then you're going to go to the implementation or action phase. And that's when the client and the social worker are actually going to start executing that plan that they came up with. And this is when you're going to give responsibilities out. I might be responsible for something and the client might be responsible for something else. And we're going to work jointly to get to our goals that we've set. And part of the goal setting and things happens in the planning portion. So let's see, we have SMART goals. We have just thinking about, okay, what are some things we can try here because we're having a situation where there's some problems and we want to focus on maybe how to address those problems or issues. Sometimes it can be defining what's happening right now. Say a client is drinking through the week and they want to have, right now, they're having 2 to 3 drinks every evening. They would like to bring it down to 1 drink every evening. So we're going to have that as our goal. 1 drink an evening, come from this number to this number. And then when we implement that plan and we start to follow it, that's the action that we're taking. Maybe there's check-ins. Maybe your client is going to plug in when they want to have that drink. Instead, they're going to have an herbal tea to help relax them. Then we're going to come back after whatever time frame we've set on that SMART goal, and we're going to evaluate, did this work? How do we know it's working? Did we meet the goal? Are we close? Do we have to reevaluate? Do we have to adjust anything? And this evaluation method, for the sake of just beginning with our clients, we're going to use a lot of client input. It might be based on the goals that we set with clients. It could be a pre-test and a post-test, like if we're increasing self-esteem or dealing with anxiety or depression. Maybe they're having less anxiety. It's perceived as less anxiety. Maybe there's also a test they took at the beginning that showed higher levels of anxiety, and now we're having lower levels. So hopefully that makes sense. And this is a process that can go back and forth because we're people, we change, things get brought back up, things can get worse, things can get better. They can always change, which is again, why this is not linear. Then there's termination. And that is something that, to me, I feel is very important to talk about, even at this engagement stage, assessment phase, letting people know this relationship is a temporary relationship. The purpose here is not for us to be doing this together forever. The goal for me is I want you to be empowered to do this and to get out there and be successful. And I don't want you to need me to do that forever. So yes, I'm here to help you. I want to work with you. This is not a forever thing. And just letting them know that up front, because we never know in our profession either what will happen. That relationship may have to end somewhere in between the engagement, the implementation, the evaluation. We don't know. Life happens. So I just think it's super important that termination is something we've talked about upfront, because it's important. And when we terminate, we want to leave as well as possible, because a lot of our clients haven't had really good goodbyes. So it's important to try and make that goodbye as good as possible. And in my mind, preparing them up front that this is not a forever thing, that there will be a goodbye, is one of the ways that I can work on creating that good goodbye for them. Then the follow-up is when we reach out, if we didn't have to say goodbye prematurely, and we can say, how's it going? What's happening? Do you need to come back in? Has anything resurfaced? Just seeing, like, are you using your skills? Are you able to cope? There are situations where, again, like if I terminated prematurely, I moved, I'm not working for that agency anymore, whatever it may be. There might be a death. Follow-up might not be able to happen, but it's here in case it can happen. It's a good thing to do. It helps create that whole circle for our clients and gives closure, and also gives them a way to come back to get help if they need it again. So the last thing that is covered in this slide, or this, not slide, but in this book, in this chapter 4 of this book, is the fact that we are evidence-based. So this is something that we've also talked about. It is so important for us to combine research with our efforts to help our clients, to include research on our assessment and figuring out how do we treat this, to understand social justice issues and what's being done in other places that's been successful with different populations, with different issues of justice problems. So always coming back to the research, trying to take an idea that you have and find it in the research and see if it's working someplace else, trying to find the problem and see what people are doing about it. And then it's going to be so awesome if you guys can contribute to the research, if you can help people who are researching by giving your input, if you can do the research yourself and add it to the knowledge base. But it's super important. It helps us become better at what we do, and it helps us become better for our clients. And here we have the website address, just in case you want to go check this out. I strongly, strongly encourage it. And I just want to say that I am really looking forward to this class with you. It is going to be different being online, but it is going to be fun. I'm excited that we'll be using Nearpod. I'm excited that we will have coffee with Calico opportunities, and I'm always reachable. So just let me know and we will get together. Thank you so much.